everyone. Welcome to Performacast Season 2, Episode 6. Today we've got an amazing guest, Rebecca Pash, and we'll be discussing about women's health and nutrition. But before we start, I want you to remind you to please hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram and TikTok. There are going to be a few giveaways down the line and amazing new guest speakers and just all the latest in health and the longevity coming right here. So just hit that subscribe button and you won't regret it. So I want to welcome Rebecca Pash, who is very passionate about nutrition and fitness specifically within for women and helping them. Welcome, Rebecca. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, thank you. So Rebecca, I wanted to ask you, you passionate about, as you say, like women's fitness and nutrition. How's it different? Just example in terms of how's it different to like men's nutrition and men's fitness?
So when I started, not even being a trainer, but when I was really interested in the gym, there weren't that many women who were weightlifting or strength training. It was really like 15, 17 years ago. Like I would be the only girl in the weight room in Holmes Place. And even when I became a trainer, women were still like, I don't want muscle. I don't want to build any muscle. Like, I just want to do hours and hours of cardio and I just want to be skinny. And like, there was such this fear of looking like a man. And once I became a trainer, so that was 10 years ago, more and more women have got into strength training and understanding the importance of building muscle, especially for women because of osteoporosis. And for women who really don't have who don't have fat on their body and their bones, they need that resistance training. So that's really important. And it's not spoken about. It wasn't spoken about enough. And now I think more and more people understand how important strength training or any kind of resistance training is. Um, so we've come very far. Still, there are people I see in the gym on the cardio machine for hours and hours and hours and still believing that like this is the only way to go and not lifting any weights at all. So I think there's a difference. I think men have always been into lifting and the importance of like building muscle and being buff, and women have always been a bit scared of it until they get into it and understand the importance and how good they feel, and how it can really change their life and be strong. Like we do the heavy lifting with kids. You know, we're lifting our children, we're holding baby, we're carrying babies, we're getting pregnant. And, you know, without weightlifting, it's not weightlifting, strength training, resistance training, you know, it's harder. So you want to have that strength and you want to be able to feel strong and lift your child and lift heavy bags and shopping and, you know, just we do a lot of lugging around. So I think it's really important that women train for sure.
Yeah, you make a
And in
good
terms
point.
of,
Sorry,
no,
continue.
no, you can. In terms of
Yes.
nutrition, we because men have always been into fitness and they know that like protein is so important. And like I remember when I used to work in a gym, there was people eating tuna cans, like literally like shoving tuna in their mouth. I mean, before we realized that like you don't have to eat protein straight after a workout. But like there were people who would do that. They would bring a can of tuna to the gym and like shove it in their mouth after, or like shake their shaker protein shake straight after they worked out. And it wasn't the same for women. Like there wasn't that um, importance put on us to eat protein. And it was kind of just like, yeah, you'll go to the gym and like, you know, and everyone stayed away from carbs, but no one ever spoke about the importance of for women to eat a lot of protein. So I think now more and more we're understanding the importance and how it affects our hormones and how it affects our energy and all of that. So I think that like we've come a long way. There's still a way to go for women, but I think that like more and more we're understanding our nutritional needs and our fitness needs a lot more.
Yeah, it's definitely come a long way. I mean, like from the 90s, I remember just all about cardio, and that was it, even in 2000s. But like lately, in the year 2024, I mean, I've seen so many women on my Instagram and like heavy lifting and protein. So it definitely has been a shift. So that's why I asked you, like, what's the difference? Because they are training pretty much the same as men. I mean, like they even at times they become stronger and build even more muscle sometimes, in some cases. And as I said, like
Yeah,
I
but
don't think
we're looking at a percentage of women. So, like, there's
it's
an
a very
amazing
small
group
percentage.
here. Yeah, like, there's an amazing group here called Women Who Lift Israel. And you see, and they're doing CrossFit competitions, and there is weightlifting for women, and it's amazing. But like you're talking about the people who have taken it to that extreme, who've like really dedicated their life and love it and want to do it. But there are still those women who don't love it and don't want to ever lift a weight, and like don't really see the importance, or they don't fit it into their lives, and like they're busy, they're working full time, and they have kids, and they've got to run a home. So yes, there are those women who are lifting heavy, and they're doing amazing things, but then there's like the majority who aren't doing that. I'm not like a heavy weightlifter. I'm, in the middle of that. Like I love to strength train and eat well and eat a lot of protein, but like I'm not lifting weights like that in the gym. So I think, and then there's the women who've never touched a weight in their whole life, never even stepped foot in a gym, or they've gone on the cross trainer for 20 minutes. Like, so there is still that there's still work to do, I think, in women fitness and women's nutrition.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if they're going to be wanting to, say, lose a fat. I think strength training is definitely the way to go as opposed to cardio because all they're doing is, especially runners, they're just burning muscle, whatever, what little is left of them. And I'm sure you know as a trainer how muscle is important for protecting joints, protecting the organs, helping you move better, feeling better, less pain. I'm sure you I'm sure you know that as a person, as an experienced trainer.
Yes, and I express that a lot in my training. I don't think that like, especially I used to get a lot of pushback because when I was a trainer in Holmes Place, it wasn't so much about my personal fitness clients. It was about like me just taking on any client there. So they got 3 free trainings when they joined the gym. So I was one of the only women trainers. So I got a lot of the women who just joined. And when I told them to lift a weight, they like pushed back at me so hard. No, I don't want to see a muscle. I don't want to build a muscle. I just want to keep running. And I said, okay, so then don't come to me. Like, I don't like, you didn't need to do the training if you're going to push. Like, I don't need the pushback from you. But I think that, um, I think that as much as we can express it and I can post about it and talk about it in reels, and there's still people who just aren't interested and don't enjoy it. So like then you're not going to, force them into a gym. And I always say with movement, especially, it's more important that you do something instead of just sitting still, over doing something that you hate and that isn't going to get you back, get you into the gym. It's more about consistency over, um, trying once and then never doing anything again. So I always find that, like, if you like surfing or you like Pilates, reformer Pilates, or if you like yoga, then it's at least you're moving instead of like telling people they have to do strength training, otherwise they'll never lose fat, and otherwise they'll, break a bone and all of that. Like it's very hard to tell people and to scare people into a gym. You can't do that. I tell them as much as possible the benefits, and it's for them to make a decision.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, there's definitely alternate options in the lifting weights in terms of strength training. The gym's not for everyone. Like for me, I didn't like I tried lifting weights a while, like a long time, over 20 years ago, and it didn't speak to me. It wasn't. I didn't enjoy it, even though I'm a man. I knew the importance of strength training. I preferred body weight, but in your experience, what's like alternatives are there? for women who don't want to go to the gym, but they realize the importance of strength training. How can they do to start? Where can they go? Or what can they do?
Any resistance training. So anything either against your own body weight, bands, very small weights. I would say reformer Pilates is like my all-time favorite. And I think it's a really great way to build strength and also for your core, and a bit of flexibility, a bit of mobility. I think reformer Pilates is an amazing way. Floor Pilates also is a great class to start with because a lot of the teachers will give you a band and you'll be against some resistance. So like there are tons also, like if you don't want to ever go to a class and you don't want to, and you don't have time and you can do 20 minutes, there are so many people on YouTube that you can follow and they do a lot of bands classes. So like, you buy those small bands from AliExpress and you can do that. And I think any type of resistance. So like even, yes, surfing, you're against a wave. What's it called? Paddleboarding also, it's kind of resistance because you're using your balance, you're standing. If you only want to do body weight, you're going against your body. At the beginning it will be hard and then it does get easier, so you do have to add. It's the same with anything, like your body starts getting used to things very quickly, so you do have to like make it harder, otherwise you're just going to stay still and nothing's going to change. So I think that like if you aren't interested in lifting a weight, there are yoga is also, it's all against your body weight. And you see women or men even with yoga bodies who've built muscle and they have a different type of muscle. It's more long and lean, but it's still a great way to get some mobility and movement into your life. And if you really are anti the gym, then there are things to do like that.
And in terms of nutrition, like you mentioned that, women are more focusing nowadays, or at least there's more of awareness of protein. Um, has that changed a lot now since back, in the day?
Um, I think I think more people are also, I think the biggest problem that we used to have was people were so anti-carbs that like people were so scared of pasta and bread and it was the devil. And like people are still saying, oh, that makes you fat, or like, oh, I can't eat bread, it makes me put on weight. Whereas understanding that you need things like this, like you can eat bread and it will help you to lose weight because you need the energy, and taking things out and cutting and restricting and all of that is not going to help you. Adding things in. So like pasta is a great whole grain at the side of your meal, um, with a great source of protein. So chicken or salmon or whatever protein you enjoy, and beef even. And then, you need fat. So I always emphasize a balanced meal and making sure that protein is the priority, then loads of vegetables, and then some sort of whole grain, whether that's rice, quinoa, millet, bulgur, whole grain, whole wheat pasta, even bread, like wraps are an amazing meal. But making sure that you're trying to get at least 20 to 30 grams of protein in every single meal and snack as well, like not forgetting snacks. Can really help you with weight loss if that's what your goal is, but also having energy and also helping to digest the food. If you're just eating carbs and fat or like loads of fruit without protein, it makes the digestion really quick, whereas protein slows it down and it will give you longer lasting energy. And that's something that you need to think about as well, so like having a balanced meal and a balanced snack as well.
In terms of pasta, you mentioned a lot of people do have gluten issues, or allergic, or it doesn't agree with their stomach, it's bloating, and with pasta specifically, unless it's maybe and made from egg or noodles or whatever, or rice or something,
Chickpea.
chickpeas. I think that's also could be an issue with actual useless carbs when it comes to like just processed wheat. What do you think about that?
I think that there's a fear around gluten when people don't really have a gluten intolerance. I think it's like something that's, unless you have celiac and you really, really, or you really, really have a gluten intolerance, but like There's no difference of having gluten from bread or gluten from pasta or gluten from anything. I mean, I don't think it's a useless carb. I think that, yeah, if it really bloats you and it really hurts your stomach, then yeah, okay, avoid it. So like, but there are other options, and you can have brown rice, and you can have, I don't think it's clever to avoid carbs at all costs. And I don't think that it's needed in weight loss or in anything. Like, I think it's really needed. And I think there's so much emphasis on like what we take out of our diet all the time. Like, I don't eat dairy, I don't eat this, and I'm gluten free. Does anyone really know what gluten is? Like I remember years ago, someone was asking, like, do you know what gluten is? And some like Jimmy Kimmel did it, and loads of them were like, no, I don't know what it is, but I'm gluten free. So yes, unless you really go to a doctor and you find out that you're gluten free or celiac, okay. But I think that the majority are saying they're gluten free because they're scared of the carb, and so they avoid it. But I think if you have it with protein and it slows down your digestion, and you have it with vegetables, then I don't think, like, you shouldn't really feel the pain of it, or like it shouldn't really affect you as much. If you're just eating a big bowl of pasta with nothing on it, then maybe, yeah, maybe it will hurt you. But if you're eating it as part of a balanced meal, then it shouldn't. Like, it's just part of a balanced meal.
No, I agree that you shouldn't cut out any food groups because they all play a big part of a balanced diet. But I was talking about more of the processed stuff that could play more of a havoc into your body with processed flour. What I'm talking about digesting the chemicals. Do you think it's just all part of a balanced thing if you just have that, or it's okay to have all the processed stuff?
What's all the processed stuff? Like, as in, rice is processed. I mean,
Okay, there's
everything's
a
processed. Pasta's processed, but it's the same as rice is processed. I mean, if you're talking about like a ready meal, or like, you know, there's a fear also around processed food, but like tuna in a can is processed. It's still tuna, but it's been processed through a system and put in a can and put in some water or some oil. I mean, I think that like there's this fear again, like that influencers or Instagram or social media or whatever, like putting on this like processed food. If yes, your majority of your food is from a frozen meal that that's added loads of salt and sugar to and lots of oil, then yes, maybe avoid that. But if you're cooking yourself pasta from a packet that like you eat once or twice a week, that's fine. I think that like it's more about the full processed meals which in Israel, we don't really have that much. We don't really have that, that frozen meal culture here so much. Yes, there's pizza in the freezer sections, and there's those frozen foods, but like in terms of meals that you get that you freeze and all of that, there isn't that culture as much here, I find.
Okay, yeah, I didn't. I mean, I wouldn't really know much about the culture in terms of it. I haven't been there too long.
That
But and in terms of adding, like you say, everything's processed. Of course, everything's going to be processed somehow. You're not going to get anything. But I'm talking about adding like different chemicals and sugars and seed oils. What do you think about seed oils versus tree oils?
I think if you think about everything too much, it will make you crazy. And I honestly, I think people are so focused on taking stuff out and obsessing about it that a tiny bit of seed oil isn't going to kill you in the grand scheme of things if you're living a real healthy life. If you never eat out for the rest of your life, like if you only eat at home and you're so focused on eating like non-processed food and only whole foods, and then you're going to live a pretty boring life. And I think that like the once in a while you go to a restaurant or you order takeout, and you probably don't know how much sugar and salt and oils are put in your food, but is it enjoyable? Did you have a nice time? Is it sociable? Is it fun? Is it an excuse for you not to cook? Eat it, enjoy it. I think there's so much pressure on what we should take out of our diet, and there isn't that much emphasis on what we should actually add to our diet. And then people are so focused on like what we need to take out instead of what we actually should be adding to our diet. And then people are screaming about seed oils and then eating bars of chocolate. So like, no.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely. That can counteract. But then again, like a lot of these, like say these cardio people have like a strict vegan diet because they want to live clean. What do you think of that? What that, especially like with women who think that vegans are lots, it
it
sounds healthier, so to speak.
it's very hard for me, and I don't want to come across as like dissing someone's diet. If people, for in terms of, you know, don't want to kill animals and really care about it ethically, then be vegan all you want. Um, unless you really are eating whole foods and really getting the right amount of protein, then people who are vegan and just eating crappy food because they are ethically vegan, they're no healthier than anyone who's just eating meat, or fish or whatever. And I think that like there's so much emphasis also on being vegan, but like, I mean, I see it all the time also, carnivore diet, that people are eating meat and butter for fun and like shoving sticks of butter in their mouth. I think anything that's extreme is extreme and totally unnecessary. I don't want to diss vegans because it is an ethical thing. But I will diss carnivores. But I think that it's an extreme, and people are like either obsessed with weight loss and that's all they care about. So then they're like so focused on it. So they have to take everything out of their diet, or they're like obsessed with like lifting more weight, or they think it's the healthier thing. But we can all live a balanced lifestyle and include all the food groups. I don't think it's so necessary to take everything out. But again, if you care about the animals and the fish and whatever, then ethically that's okay. But if you're doing it for other reasons, look deeper.
Fair points. You say, you mentioned before we started the podcast, you were a big, you did a lot of the football and you enjoyed it. Tell me what your experience was and how, like, you think it could help with women getting started.
So I was an overtrainer. I was in the gym for hours and hours and hours before I healed my relationship with both food and my body. But there was a trainer before I became a trainer. There was a trainer in the gym that I used to go to, and he was, um, I think he was like trained as a circus act, but he loved the football, and he used to have like 3 or 4 classes a week. And I started to go once a week, and there were girls there who were like amazing. And I was like, I want to be as good as them. And I worked so hard. And then I would like go to more and more classes each week. And it was all about balance and core. And I'd already done loads of Pilates, and I would spend hours in the studio doing loads of other classes. And then I became as good as everyone. And he used to like use me as an example, and he'd like give me 2 balls and I'd balance and I could stand on the balls. And then I became a trainer. I qualified as a trainer, and he got a slip disc. And so they gave me all his classes. So like he'd already started training me, just in general, like once a week I would train with him, and then he couldn't train anybody and he couldn't go to the classes because he couldn't move. So they gave me all the classes because they knew that I'd like spent loads of time with him. I think I wasn't very good at teaching classes, but I loved the ball. I think for anyone who really wants, especially women after pregnancy, before pregnancy, who really want to work on their core, it's one of the best things you could ever do, with balance and understanding how to pull in the core, how to sit on a ball without, your feet on the floor. I think it's great. I think I loved it. Like I loved working on the football.
Do you think you can
It's
build
fun.
strength on the ball, like strength and muscle?
Um, yeah, but mostly if you have good balance. Like if you don't have good balance, unless you're like lifting weights on the ball and stuff like that, then it's going to take you a bit longer, because if you don't have balance and you're trying stuff on the ball, then you're not going to build that much because you're more focused on the balance. Once you have balance, you can do anything. Um, yeah, I think it's a great way. Again, if for people who don't like the gym or lifting a weight, I think it's a great alternative. And I think it's always fun to try something that challenges you.
Yeah, like I think the key is challenging yourself, like completely. What do you think about like people who set goals for themselves? They just want to lose weight, so that like a certain, they want to get to a certain, and then they do. But then, what's the next? What's after that? Do they keep maintaining? Are they as motivated, or do they go back into the old habits and put on the weight?
So, as a health, so I never really touched weight when I was a fitness trainer. I knew people came to me for weight loss, but I felt like as a fitness trainer, you really weren't allowed to talk about nutrition. And I didn't like it when people who were trainers did. And then when I became a health coach, I found that obviously I had a lot more information and I could give a lot more help to the people who came to me for weight loss. Now I don't do fitness training at all. And my focus is women's relationship with food. So I still get people who come to me for weight loss. And I really try to emphasize that, especially for people who've been on a diet for most of their adult life, who've tried to lose that 5 kilo, then put it back on, and then tried to lose 6 kilo and then put it back on. And it keeps adding up because you keep losing and gaining and losing and gaining. I think that setting a goal with a number can put a lot of pressure. I understand the reason for weight loss, and I understand it makes you feel good. You want to fit into the clothes that you wore once, and all of that. But you can continue to do a diet. But if you aren't looking at the big picture, which is your relationship with food, your emotional eating, how you eat, the language around food, why you eat the way you eat, then you can continue to lose and gain that 5 kilo for the rest of your life. You'll never maintain it because you've not looked at the bigger picture, which is your relationship with food. So I think people still come to me with goals of like numbers and weight loss. And by the end of my coaching, I find that they've kind of they've understood that that isn't as important, and feeling good and having less anxiety and having more energy and all of that is way more important than the number on the scale.
Yeah, I think it should be more focused on how you feel. And as you said, you brought up a good point with emotional eating. Because if you let your emotions, like, rule you, feeling you had a bit of a crappy day and you're feeling negative, a lot of the time to go to is to go and binge on whatever is in the fridge or get takeouts and just, mess that whole hard work up. So I think make an important point. You have to get your mind right before you start with any kind of program so that you have a more of a longer term goal and what's next after. Then you can add a what's next once you hit that goal, and then you won't fall back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my whole aim is to have people who never have to diet again. So then, even if after they've, reached a goal of weight that they feel comfortable at and they understand how to maintain it, things happen, like stress happens and you might eat a bit more and you might put on a bit weight, but it's also you have all the tools and habits in place to know how to do it yourself, to just lose those 2, 3 kilos that you'd put on because you weren't eating so balanced and you did have a bit more stress in your life or you had a baby or something. Like there's definitely times that like we put on weight and then we lose weight. It's just like, as women we have periods and we have 2 weeks of a month that we feel good and 2 weeks of a month that we don't. So it's more about having habits in place to help us maintain a balanced diet. Like it's all about balance. Sugar is not going anywhere. You'll eat sugar for the rest of your life. If you want to avoid it, you're living a boring life. So like you can eat sugar, but like you can also not make it into your emotional eating food. You can eat it, enjoy it, and move on. So that's for me is how I coach my clients. I make sure that they understand it's all about food freedom. No food is off limits, and understanding how to make a balanced meal, get enough protein, have time to move their body and all of that, but also not having such a focus on the number on the scale. Also, there is non-weight, like feeling good in your clothes, looking in the mirror and putting a bit of makeup on and feeling good about yourself, or doing your hair. It's not always about the number on the scale.
Yeah, no, it makes definitely makes sense. What do you think about especially the new? I don't know if it's that new research, but in terms of alcohol how damaging it is. We all knew that it's damaging to the liver, but actually now there's research that it's been very damaging to the brain and other very harmful effects. What do you think about that? Is there a balance in that?
I don't really have like I don't really want to comment on it. I don't drink in general, like as in I did in my 30s, I had a great time. I did in my 20s and had a great time. As in now I just don't really go out, so I don't really drink. I don't know enough to even comment. In terms of waking up, I mean, waking up in the morning, if you have kids, do you want to feel hungover or do you want to feel fresh and have time in the morning to wake up? For me, what's really important is to wake up at 5:40 and to have time without my child waking up before me. And feel good in the morning, feel energized and walk. I walk with my dog to the GAN and then I walk back and then I go to the gym. So that's for me is important. So waking up with a hangover isn't gonna help me in that situation. But that's like, again, it's up to people where they choose to like use their calories once in a while to drink and have a good time. Like do it. It's what's gonna happen the next day. That's up to you.
Yeah, it all boils down, I think, to people's personal goals. I think everything is very personalized, their own, body, what they put in. They should, I mean, like, I tell people to listen to their body, what it's doing to them. Do you think that's sound advice to be intuitive as to what's is good, what's not good, instead of sticking to a strict plan and doing it regardless?
Oh, for sure. I always tell people it's like intuitive eating. I think that you have to listen. And sometimes when you're craving something, eat it. Don't avoid it because then you'll spend your whole time thinking about it. I think that it's collecting data, like what you said about alcohol. If you know you're going to wake up with a hangover, then don't drink it. Like, or you accept the fact that you're going to wake up with a hangover and that's just what's going to happen. But it's the same with everything. If you know that sitting and eating a pizza, which maybe if you do have a bit of an intolerance to gluten and you don't love dairy and whatever, but it's so tasty, but you know that tomorrow morning you're going to wake up bloated and not feel great. That's your decision to make. Like you can't also shame and guilt yourself for it. You made that decision. It was tasty and the time you ate it, you enjoyed it, move on. A lot of people like berate themselves and punish themselves for doing something in the moment that they enjoy. It's a toss up, it's a choice. If you know what's going to happen and you're okay with that, then you've eaten it, enjoyed it, and moved on. And I say that to all my clients. It's a choice. And if you don't want that feeling in the morning, so like have one slice of pizza and eat a salad with it. Like, it's about balance. It's about choices. It's about feeling good and making the decisions based on what you know is going to happen in the future.
Yeah, everything boils down to a choice, but does it have to be a choice when it comes to unhealthy foods or not? Can we get the same kind of feeling eating, say, non healthy foods, but actually substituting, investing the time and making with healthy substitute ingredients and having it just as decadent as what you'd go for the unhealthy stuff. But again, as you said, it's a choice. But do you think that's also, I mean, do you think that's a way to go?
I think like my favorite thing is like a chocolate brownie. So I make brownies with chickpeas. So like I know that I'm getting a bit of protein in my brownie and it doesn't have sugar and it has maple syrup in, but it also has tons of fat in from peanut butter. So like, is it an healthy alternative? A little, like I'm getting a bit of protein from it. Like, is it full of sugar? Less so, but it's also full of fat. So like, does it have to be a choice? I mean, you're not going to get the same feeling from like a high sugar decadent chocolate cake than you would from a chickpea brownie. But if you if you don't, it depends why you're eating. You also have to like figure out why you're eating that. Like, is it emotional reasons you're eating it? Is it because it's in front of you? Is it a celebration? Is it an association? Is it, a habit that you always do? Like, question these things. Why are you eating that? Like, do you need it? Are you hungry? It's just, like all these things. And it is a choice. You do have to think about these things. Like when you're in an office and there's food in front of you, think about why you're eating it. Like, do you need it? Do you want it? Like, Yeah, it does have to be a choice. And I like, it's not a bad thing.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. I really appreciate it. We're running out of time. Really appreciate you coming on and speaking about women's health, nutrition, and training. And I want to just remind everyone, please hit the subscribe button, and there are going to be amazing other guest speakers, and there's going to be giveaways. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
I'll see you.